Welcome to Missing and Exploited Children Performance Measures Training. Today we will talk about understanding your program data, how to prepare it, how to collect it, how to track it, and how to report on your program data. Understanding and reporting useful and accurate data is a critical component in the solicitation and award process and can help both yourself and your program manager gain key insights on many decision-making factors, whether those factors be time, resources, or funding. OJJDP uses performance data to not only understand the agency story, but also to demonstrate outcome-based results. In this training session, we will go over the revised performance measures, and we will discuss collecting and sharing information to help all of us better understand how well the Missing and Exploited Children program is operating on the ground. Now, to make this session as interactive as possible, please use the WebEx chat to respond to any questions that you see on the screen. So, for example, answering the question here helps us better understand you and your needs around collecting, tracking, and/or report large number of staff involved in tracking different data elements. Okay, good. Thank you. All right, the agenda for today includes the following program overview: performance measures, collecting and tracking data and best practices, reporting data and best practices, as well as reporting in a pandemic and what to do with personally identifiable information will be presented today. Lastly, we will review key documents and resources. As we progress through the training, all websites linked, mentioned during the training will be presented to you in chat and also provided to you in your copy of the presentation that will be emailed to you later this week. The objectives for today include understanding what the performance measures updates are for your program and understanding the need for a data collection plan. Further, you will gain understanding of the performance measure reporting due dates. Now, the due dates, as you know, are twice a year, July 30th and January 30th. And you will understand where to find supporting resources. In the showcase sessions we conducted last April, we talked about the newly updated performance measures as outlined in your solicitation or award and located at the OJJDP.ojp.gov website. This training is being presented to you to emphasize the fact that now is the time to start planning on collecting and tracking data for the July through December 2021 reporting cycle, with the goal of reporting in January 2022 on these newly revised program measures. Let's remind ourselves of the performance measures process and then discuss the newly updated performance measures found in your program. As you review these performance measures with Sarah, you may recognize some of them, since not all of them were changed in the updating process. Sarah, I will pass the microphone to you.
Thank you, Rebecca. In the Special Victims and Violent Offenders Division, we have several programs and programs with subprograms. The program that we're talking about today is the Missing and Exploited Children program as part of the Special Victims and Violent Offenders Division. Some of the outcomes of the Missing and Exploited Children program are locating missing and exploited children, or local missing and exploited children's programs implemented, coordinated cases of child exploitation, integrated state, regional, and tribal Amber Alert plans, increase the use of effective prevention and intervention strategies for missing abduction. Which performance measures do grantees report on? Training and technical assistance outputs and outcomes. What is different about this program, or what standout features make it unique? The only grantees reporting into the JustGrants Missing and Exploited Children's question set, question set will be the TTA providers. Again, the only grantees reporting into JustGrants Missing and Exploited Children's question set will be TTA providers. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children will continue to submit their own detailed reports to OJJDP. Who are the grant funds intended to help? For example, courts, youth systems, community. For this program, it's missing and exploited children. The framework or logic model used to write the performance measures includes 4 components: inputs, activities, outputs, and outcomes. Inputs are program resources such as grant funding and award administration. Activities are actions that convert inputs to outputs and can be anything from identifying key personnel with access to crime and alcohol abuse data to establishing information sharing agreements. Outputs are products or services that are the result of activities such as trainings, meetings, etc. Outcome measures speak to the longer-term program goals. The newly updated performance measures will require changes in the way you collect data, and that's why we're here today, to ensure that you understand that you will be reporting on the newly updated performance measures during the July through December 2021 period, come July 30th of 2022, and that you have a plan in place to do so. The performance measures document the progress that you have made in accomplishing program goals and objectives by collecting data on grantee activities and services. Remember, regular reporting on performance measure outcomes establishes your program's growth. You can find your program's performance measures at this online location shown here on the slide. OJJDP identified and organized the newly updated performance measures to include 3 different categories. The categories include overall measures, multi-program measures, and program-specific measures. In overall measures, grantees will be asked the same overall questions in every program. This allows analysts to aggregate data across multiple programs and assist with responding to ad hoc data requests. Multi-program measures impact 3 different types of populations. One is shared targeted populations, such as children involved in the child welfare system or tribal youth. 2, those with similar service delivery, for example, mental health services or prevention services. And 3, those with shared outcomes, for example, youth provided with defense counsel. Program-specific measures collect data that align with a specific population, funded activity, or desired result. These measures help reflect the unique outputs and outcomes for each specific program and distinguishes them from other programs. Program-specific measures also help track the progress of individual programs over time. So for this program, the Missing and Exploited Children program, there are 5 performance measures. For the categories, there are 4 overall and 1 multi-program measure. There are no program-specific measures. And overall, out of the 5, 3 are outputs and 2 of the measures are outcomes. Next, let's look at the performance measures for your program. To report this overall TTA output measure, you will report on the number of training requests received and the number of training events held. A training request is any formal or informal inquiries for learning activities, curriculum development or delivery for a group of individuals or organizations. Training events are planned activities developed to help individuals apply knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed by a task, job, or organization, and they can include both train the trainer or just training of individuals. For the next TTA overall output measure, number of individuals trained, you will report the total number of individuals trained during the reporting cycle and the population trained. A text box will be provided to capture your response for population trained. Some examples can include staff, volunteers, and police officers. For the last TTA overall output measure, percentage of technical assistance requests delivered, you will report the total number of technical assistance requests accepted and the total number of technical assistance requests delivered. For B, it is important to report the total number of technical assistance requests delivered and to break it down by the type of technical assistance request. Again, a text box will be provided to indicate. For the only multi-program TTA outcome measure, you will provide data on the total number of individuals that used the skills or knowledge learned at a training within 6 months of attending the training, determined by a post-training survey. For example, when you begin collecting data for the upcoming reporting cycle, July to December of 2021, you will capture post-survey data received during the reporting cycle that reflects that individuals used the knowledge or skills learned from a training event that occurred during the previous reporting cycle or within 6 months of attending the training. We understand that as a new grantee, or if you're reporting on this measure for the first time, you may still be developing a post-survey during the July to December 2021 reporting cycle. For the last overall TTA outcome measure, percentage of organizations who employed a new evidence-based or promising service, policy, or practice recommended by a technical assistance provider, you will provide data on the total number of organizations that received technical assistance and also the number of organizations that employed a new evidence-based or promising service, policy, or practice after receiving technical assistance. The percentage is calculated by us by dividing B over A. And now I will pass it back to Rebecca.
Thank you, Sarah. We have a short scenario for you. Brenda Sokup is a new missing and exploited children grantee and has just received the newly updated performance measures, attended this learning event, and is sitting at her desk wondering how to get started. What would you recommend Ms. Sokup do to prepare for data collection July to December 2021 and reporting in January 2022? Please respond in the chat box. Alexandra, plan for and establish tracking mechanisms. Thank you. Terry, clearly define TA and training. So some of the things to think about in addition to these two excellent points are to make sure that you have a copy of the program performance measures to include definitions and questions as demonstrated by Sarah just a moment ago. You want to familiarize yourself with those. You want to determine who will be responsible for capturing and tracking the data and who will be responsible for reporting the data. Also noted by Sarah, each program may have a unique or slightly different approach to data collection and reporting, so determining what works best for your program is always a best practice. Vicki has added, create a tracking system which contains the training event, date, location, and number of students attended. She will need to create a questionnaire to send to students 4 to 6 months post-class that asks if they are applying what they learned, if they created new programs as a result of the training. Thank you, Vicki. Once the questionnaire results are returned, Brenda can use the data to report. The issue we have is getting people to actually respond to these questionnaires 6 months after the fact. Thank you, Vicki. Good point. Let's talk about collecting and tracking data just for a moment. Creating a data collection plan requires a good deal of pre-planning and preparation. When creating a data collection plan, best practices often include locating the performance measures, understanding what each question is asking, even if the question asks for something that you have a response of 0 for, and creating a plan to identify when and how to collect the data. Types of tools or instruments that you use to collect needed data is also something to consider. Tools or instruments being validated and used before, and the accuracy of the tool or instrument, or in this case, a questionnaire, and then who will manage that data. When it comes to best practices for collecting good data, you want to be proactive in your approach. You want to designate staff for the coordination of the performance measure data collection process. You want to review progress reporting questionnaires. You want to ensure that staff participate in trainings. You want to pay attention to communication from JustGrants. And if applicable, you want to review, edit, and validate data with sub-grantees before reporting. Some things to think about as you plan to collect and track data include timelines and resources. After all, this can be a lengthy data collection period, as noted in your solicitation. Some of the questions you may want to consider while planning include duration and version control. Does your plan include a beginning, a middle, and an ending date? How will you manage documents over that time period? Will you track them, for example, with an Excel spreadsheet? Regarding location and access, how will you store the data? Who will have access to it as it comes in? And if it is stored on a shared drive, who is given permissions? Lastly, how will changes be communicated? How will the data be validated and edited if applicable? We will now review several best practices during reporting. In the January 2022 reporting cycle, you'll be reporting on the newly revised performance measures and narrative questions. Narrative questions provide you with the opportunity to answer or address the following topics. What do the numbers you reported on in your performance measures actually mean on the ground? How does your work impact your community? You want to use the narrative to walk the reader from the numeric outputs to the tangible outcomes. And you want to use specific and detailed concrete examples to illustrate your points. Other things to think about include providing evidence to support conclusions, discussing what funding has allowed you to do that you could not do prior to receiving funding, and potentially include words like COVID-19 and pandemic when explaining COVID-19 adjustments to the program. Take a moment and examine the community-based violence program narrative example on the screen. This comes from the ROCA program in Baltimore, who writes, "These young people that are in these environments have been placed in situations out of their control at a very young age, but they do have the ability to learn the skills to not react," said Kurt Palmero, the director of ROCA Baltimore. "We were able to reduce violence in our community by 17% by offering evidence-based schools programs, 19 trauma-informed services over the last 3 months. Again, a narrative example. Let's discuss best practices for reporting in JustGrants. Common issues arise since you are required to respond to every question. When reporting zeros, if a measure does not apply, you can enter a 0 value and then add an explanation by selecting the comments field. A brief description such as "we are still in our planning period" or "there was no activity during the reporting cycle" are acceptable responses in JustGrants. Avoiding duplications in count can be very challenging as well. Having more than one person review the data, for example, a program manager at a site visit, can help ensure duplicate data does not exist in your reporting. And as you know, reporting is award-based. Another best practice when trying not to duplicate data is to spend down your funding, creating a final report of activities you performed for the oldest award first before beginning to enter data and reporting on another award. If this is not possible, prorate your quantitative data according to the amount of each award for those of you with multiple awards. Additionally, you want to contact JustGrants with any concerns related to any error messages received in JustGrants. You can save your data and resume data entry at a later point in time in JustGrants. And for more information like this, please visit the YouTube video on the screen using the link provided. Lastly, you want to contact the PMT Helpdesk for any questions related to progress reporting or reporting on the newly updated performance measures. Further, you are encouraged to reach out to your program manager with questions or concerns. Some grantees may receive funding from other awards. As noted previously, a service should be reported under one program or the other. The same service cannot be reported under multiple programs. If you have difficulty tracking services for each specific award, work with OJJDP program managers to identify an appropriate method for prorating all services to allocate numbers to each award. This session only focuses on January 2022 reporting. For this July 2021, all discretionary awards will start collecting data on the updated performance measures. You'll be reporting on the activities that occurred between July and December 2021 in January 2022. Discretionary awards reporting deadlines are July 30th for the reporting period January 1st through June 30th, and January 30th for the reporting period July 1st through December 31st. Collecting and tracking data that contains personally identifiable information, also known as PII, should be done with considerations towards the Privacy Act of 1974. Broadly stated, the Privacy Act is to balance the government's need to maintain information about individuals with the rights of the individual to be protected against unwarranted invasion of their privacy. In accordance with this act, you want to collect only the data you need. If you are using printed materials, keep sensitive PII in locked desk drawers, file cabinets, or a similar locked enclosure. And when using sensitive PII, keep it in an area where access is controlled and limited to persons with an official need to know. Reporting in a pandemic. You should complete progress reporting to the best of your ability and submit it before the deadline. Every progress report form includes a narrative field or multiple narrative fields where you can provide additional information about the data. Use that space to explain any incomplete or missing data. You're encouraged to use the narrative field that asks for additional information about the effectiveness to describe COVID-19 related adjustments to programming and other activities not captured elsewhere on the form. If you cannot provide accurate count for numerical progress report fields because project partners do not have access to files, for example, you should leave those fields blank rather than providing estimates. As a best practice, you want to communicate setbacks and successes through the use of progress reports as well as with your program specialist. So how do you report on activities now that they've been shifted to online remote platforms and when you have not been collecting detailed data on victims served like you did in face-to-face sessions? The short answer here is to do the best you can and make very good use of those narrative fields. I'd like to pass the microphone to Muniba, who will discuss various resources at your disposal and where to go for assistance. Muniba?
Thank you, Rebecca. Now we will briefly go over resources and where you can find additional assistance. The PMT Helpdesk is available to help you with any questions you may have about responding to the progress reporting questions or performance measures. You can contact us by calling the number on the screen or emailing OJJDP pmt@ojp.usdoj.gov. For a faster response, we encourage grant award administrators to send the Helpdesk an email. The OJJDP PMT Help Desk contact information is available on the screen. Our office hours are Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, except for U.S. federal holidays. The PMT Help Desk returns emails and phone calls within 24 hours, but please don't hesitate to leave a voicemail or email even after business hours. JustGrants support. If you have questions about the JustGrants system, for example, accessing the system, please call the number on the screen between the hours of 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and Saturday, Sunday, and federal holidays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you experience any issues with JustGrants, we encourage grant award administrators to contact JustGrants support. JustGrants information, such as instructions on locating, completing, and submitting performance reports in JustGrants, can be found on the OJJDP.ojp.gov website or by viewing the video available on the screen. You can also log into JustGrants at justgrants.usdoj.gov. Thanks. Back to you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Muniba. Let's take a moment to reflect on what was presented today. First, we discussed each of the performance measures in the Missing and Exploited Children's program, noting specific instances where data would need to be collected and the type of data that you need. We talked about best practices for planning, collecting, tracking, and reporting on data for the July through December 2021 reporting cycle. So what is next? Next steps include the opportunity we currently have, all of us, to collect data that will inform change down the road. For our part, those changes come in the form of edited performance measures. You'll be receiving a fillable feedback form that you are requested to complete and return to the PMT Help Desk once you have familiarized yourself with the newly updated performance measures. There is one form per performance measure with plenty of room for narrative. Providing us with feedback on the newly revised performance measures gives us the information we need to fully understand your needs or those challenges that you face implementing that particular measure. Thus, collecting your feedback now on the newly revised performance measures informs the refresh cycle 1 year after the pilot has occurred and we have identified changes or updates that need to occur. But for now, no planned changes to the performance measures are being considered, and we would request that you do not make any changes to any of the documents posted online or provided in training sessions. And that concludes today's session.